For some people, God is the elderly gentleman sitting there judging and punishing disobedient ones. See, God, I'm doing this, now I need from you this. It's not the calculation of good deeds and grace. I had doubts about the nature of God, but I've never had doubts about the existence of God. No, I don't think it's dangerous. The fear of tolerance is dangerous. Strong women are in the strong society. And that's why we need to make our men, our boys, our girls stronger, to have strong men and women. I am Bishop Rusudan Gotsiridze from the Evangelical-Baptist Church of Georgia. And this is my interview for Sakartvelo Insight. I'm very old. I was born in different country in Soviet Union. I was born in the Baptist family, in the family of clergies. My grandfather was a pastor of the church, and later he was a bishop of the Central Georgia, Gori region in particular. My uncle is a bishop, and even the women in my church, in my family, were very actively involved in church life. So I was not born in this church, but I was brought up here, and every corner and every detail in this, even in this building, is very much like home for me. In Soviet times, I knew I was different from other kids at school, for instance, but I had this different kind of differenceness, and I knew that I was not alone there. There were other kids whose family was religious, who would celebrate Easter or different religious celebrations in secret, and I knew I was not alone in that line. But when the Soviet Union collapsed in the 90s, when freedom came, and we had a lot of hopes about freedom and about independence, but unfortunately the religious extremism, wave of religious extremism became very strong, and I was a teenager by that time, and it was a shocking disappointment about freedom when I saw that I became different again, but from absolutely different perspective. So growing up in having this background made me who I am now, with my fears and with my strengths and with my weaknesses and everything. It's a very interesting question. Sometimes we think that if a person is in some kind of, I hate this word, but in minority, or have been persecuted because of his or her identity, would automatically make him tolerant or sensitive towards other kind of discriminations. Unfortunately, it does not happen just mechanically. Tolerance and the feeling of positive feeling about diversity requires a lot of resources from you. Your will, your desire, your studies, exploration. You need to learn a lot about others. It also, of course, it did play a role while I decided to think about others as well. But it's not something that happens always. Our geography throughout the history has been curse and blessing for our country and for our culture. Because where we are, we have been invaded and occupied by strong states. Probably we are the most occupied and conquered country in the world. But on the other hand, it has been a blessing because we are on the crossroad of intercultural dialogue. It's not just, oh, let's learn about East or let's learn about West. It's very much here, it's our. It's not to reach out for strange new things, but it's very much ours. So diversity, religious, ethnic, cultural, linguistic, all different diversities which are in this country has always been blessings for our culture. That's why our cuisine is so rich, our music is so rich, our architecture is so rich. But it's very hard to trace this xenophobic line, where are the roots. Probably it has a lot to do with the Soviet regime, and it's a big, dark spot in our history, 70 years. And I need to fight my inner Soviet, very conservative, very frightened Rusudan to prove things which is very natural for your generation, for my children's generation. Especially when I compare my thoughts with my kids' thoughts, how they view the world and the diversity, and for them it's so easy. And I need to fight my inner Soviet, very conservative, very frightened Rusudan to prove things which is very natural for your generation, for my children's generation. So there is this dichotomic reality here in our country. We have this natural diversity, and it's very much in our blood to have neighbors from different backgrounds and relatives from different friends, but also we have this terrible unacceptance of others, the fear of others. And tolerance is not something carved in stone. Every historical stage teaches new way of tolerance. And tolerance, it means that I have to tolerate somebody, or somebody has to tolerate me, not to kill me. And in the beginning, it was really a big achievement to tolerate others. And of course, the modern understanding of tolerance is absolutely different. It's about harmonious coexistence and mutual respect and everything. No, I don't think it's dangerous. The fear of tolerance is dangerous. The fear, xenophobia means the fear of unknown. So, when you do not know somebody or something, you're afraid because you're not sure what to expect from them or from that concept. So let's learn, let's explore. When you don't know, that is the danger. The short answer would be, yes, of course. We have a lot of believers who cannot tolerate others. And the only way for them to accept others is to convert those others to their beliefs and the faith. Yes, of course, you can be a believer and you can be xenophobic. And unfortunately, we have seen the the situations when the religion sometimes is the main source of hating others. But it does not mean that that's the essence of religion. It's a misunderstanding of religion. When you decide, in every religion there is this feeling of being chosen, being unique, the child of God, that you are the one holding the truth. And very often, people of religion decide that I own everything. The whole truth is in my hands. All the rest is just false religions, or they don't deserve to be tolerated, to be alive. And that's, there is this, from the historical perspective, it's very easy and very difficult to separate where is the use of religion as a controlling, very strong controlling mechanism, and where is the religion as a home of faith. Because the powerful people, the states, cannot resist to use religion as their controlling tool, and every religion, even very what we would consider very peaceful ones, and they all have these black spots in their history when they were used by the power as an instrument of control over people. So that's why I absolutely separate religion as an institution created by humans and used by humans in very wrong ways. And there is the religion also created by humans, because we are humans, but I believe we are created in the image of God, so that and religions are the homes for people who want to explore more about each other and explore more about the universe and more about God. These are absolutely different, and sometimes even you cannot even find any commonalities in the two different understanding of religions. It's a very good question. What is God? I don't think, very often we understand God as a political, and political is a broad understanding of political concept. There is God who rules. For some people, God is the elderly gentleman sitting there judging and punishing disobedient ones. But if we understand that God is love, God is all these positive powers that move us, and without what we're just animals who are ready to kill each other. And I don't have any bad understanding of animals as living creatures. From that perspective, you really need God to be free, God of love, God of compassion, and that gives you freedom. You don't need the God with beard and sitting in the clouds who is served by the angels to be free. Religious politics of the Soviet regime was very diverse throughout the history of these 70 years. They would change so in the beginning they were very aggressive. They destroyed the religious buildings and killed or exiled or imprisoned the spiritual leaders. So, at some point, they saw that they cannot fight religion, because when you fight religion, it does not disappear. It goes underground, and becomes even stronger. And underground movement is more difficult to control than the movement which is legal and very open. So then later they changed their policy, their religious policy, but they put all the controlling instruments in every religious institutions. That's what Stalin did when he reopened religious institutions in 1944. And we can see these time bombs he put in every religious institutions. This was this controlling. So it was. He had his own people in the church. Those who I don't know the English word for that. That when you make people your agents. And sometimes he would send his agents to become the part of the religious institution. So Soviet regime knew that religion was their enemy, but they would change the strategy. Oh, that's a very good question. It changes. In my childhood, God looked like my grandfather, but with a beard. My grandfather didn't have a beard, but he was a very kind, very sweet man, and I thought that God was like him. Some combination of my grandfather and the Santa Claus or some magic creature. When I grew up, I thought more about Jesus rather than about God, and I would separate this Father and Son, and I would have more dialogue with Jesus because I had more questions. I wouldn't dare to ask to God, but I had my questions about things which I would read from the New Testament, what Jesus said about it, and as time goes, and it's not only the image of God, how I picture God, but the nature of God. In my childhood, God was kind and sweet, and would bring the candies and presents. Then, when I was a teenager, God seemed more judgmental and ready to punish, and I was afraid of punishment. But very soon, God became more friend than the director or policeman. At some point, I remember the time when I dared to complain to God. And when I was not happy about what was happening in my life. And I decided not to blame myself, but to blame God. And I was bold enough to complain and to say, oh, why? What? Is this what you are? Is this your love and kindness? And then there was a time when God was my companion, my comfort, my supporter, my guide. So it changes. It changes how I, with my age, my spiritual maturity. So, and I'm absolutely sure 10 years from now, God will be different for me. I don't know. As I've told you, I've never remembered myself not to believing in God. And in a very simple understanding of faith, that when you believe that something exists what you cannot see. But I'm absolutely sure that the faith is much more than just to believe or not to believe, or something that is happening beyond your experience or beyond your vision. I had doubts about the nature of God, but I've never had doubts about the existence of God. In every single one of us, despite of our differences, religious, ethnic, intellectual, moral, whatever, God is in everyone, absolutely. It's just sometimes we are blind to see God in each other. We have, today we lighted the second candle of Advent. In Christian tradition we have these 4 Advent candles before Christmas. So this Sunday we lighted the second candle. In our church tradition, every year we decided to dedicate every candle to something. And this Sunday we spoke about gratitude. That's why I was very surprised to hear your question. It's Protestant theology is a theology of gratitude. In a practical way, what was changed in the Reformation? Before the Reformation, the grace from God was understood that we people need to deserve the grace from God, salvation. And how do we deserve? We need to do good deeds. And as a reward for our good deeds, we would receive the eternal salvation, the grace from God. This vision that Luther had, he said that it does not work that way. Nobody can deserve salvation. And if that was possible, then Jesus wouldn't come to earth and would not be crucified and would not be resurrected. He said that we all are granted salvation. The only thing what we need to have is gratitude. That's why we do the good things, out of gratitude, not just, see God, I'm doing this, now I need from you this. It's not the calculation of good deeds and grace, but rather gratitude. So it's very practical, very theological, very mystical. I believe in gratitude. It's a very powerful motivator to be a good human. I would be so disappointed if God was only how I understand God or how my church understands God. There is this very wise and very interesting proverb. I don't remember from which tradition, but it's about 5 blind men who were brought close to elephant. And they were allowed to touch certain parts of elephant, and then they were asked, how do you think, what is this animal? And the one who touched the body, he said that elephant is like a huge wall, strong, huge wall. And the one who touched the leg, he said, it's like a column, strong, big column. The one who touched the trunk, he said it's like it's very elastic, very flexible. It's like a snake. And the one who touched the ear, he said it's very thin. It's very sweet, it's tiny. And the one who touched the tail said that it's a tiny thing, very curly, and they were all. They were not wrong. That's how that was their limited understanding of the elephant. And each of them were absolutely right, but everybody was absolutely wrong. That's how I understand how we different religions, different denominations, different cultures, people of, it's not only about the different cultures and religions, but also the different time stages. It's both in space and in time. We understand God, but we need to be honest to say that we have limitations. And we are very much limited, and we need to listen to our fellows, how they feel about God, and we will broaden our understanding of God. To listen others, how they have experienced God. Only through sharing with others about our understanding of God, we can see more of God. But of course, we will never see the fullness of God while we are in this dimension. When I was young, the church, the Baptist church of my childhood was absolutely different. It was a very conservative, closed, in terms of theology, in terms of social openness, very closed community in a Soviet environment. And when the freedom came, we decided, when I've told you that we were kind of disappointed what freedom meant, we decided that we believe in freedom. So let's find our freedom within the church. And the very first thing what we did was that, do we still want to have this door closed, or do we open it? And we were not sure how broadly we were going to open the door, but we were willing to open it. And practically it meant, so it's opening the door, it meant that accepting others. For instance, the first step was we decided, we said that, okay, every Christian denomination is good. And that was a big achievement. So everybody are our brothers and sisters. Everybody are children of God. But our limitation was still in the frame of work of Christianity. After the Russian-Chechenian War, when the refugees came to Georgia from Chechnya, and the refugees were young mothers with little children, and we were very poor as a country. We were starving in the 90s. No electricity, no food, nothing. And we had people who had even more needs than we had, because we had our homes, and they were homeless. And the country was not ready to take care of them, and they were Muslims. And that was the first. In the beginning, we thought that, okay, let's help them to show how good are we as Christians. But I'm so thankful to my church that helping Chechnyan refugees became for us the experience of elephant, when we didn't teach them how we experienced God, but we listened to them, how they experienced God. And it became the first step when we decided, oh God, so God loves not only Christians, but God loves Muslims. And then we started to think very seriously about Jews. What about Jews? Jesus was Jewish. Apostles were Jewish. Christianity is derived or emerged from Judaism. Then we started to think about Judaism. And then we said, and what about Yazidis? What about Buddhists? And it didn't happen, so let's be very open. No, it happened step by step with personal experiences. So that's how we are here, what you see in this church. It was not influenced from any other teaching or something. This is This is the result of our painful experiences in our lifetime. When we opened the door, we found out that partly it was our fault that people didn't know about us, and they were afraid of us, and there were tales and legends about Baptist traditions and things. So what horrible things we were doing here, because they didn't know us, because we had our doors closed. Of course, the opening the door was not mutual in the beginning. And when you open the door and there is a hostility outside, it hurts a lot. And we had many painful experiences. But we believe that the perspective is not to be closed again. So we started to be vocal about ourselves. Then we saw that the main problem is not whether people know about Baptists or not, but the problem is that people are afraid of others. At some point we became the voice for Armenian church, or for Muslim community, or for LGBT community who are voiceless. And then that's how, first of all, what we do builds our understanding of the humanity and of God. And then we'll see how people understand us. Thanks God we're not alone in this journey or in this fight, and we have like-minded people everywhere. We started to build bridges with different religious denominations. For instance, the very first small ecumenical movement with 4 churches was started some 30 years ago, maybe 25 years ago, where Baptist, Lutheran, Armenian, and Catholic churches came together to celebrate the Day of Christian Unity together. And after that, until now, we have this annual prayer every second half of January. Then we had this new platform, which was the Religious Council at the Public Defender's Office. And it has, until now, it has been very instrumental in peace building, in tolerance building in this society, where people from different religious backgrounds come together to discuss our problems. We don't speak theology there. We speak the human rights there. We speak the common problems there as a children of this country. So there are differences and commonalities between these groups, but what brings us together is that the faith in equality and faith in diversity. I've told you that every change that has happened in this church was not theoretical or ideological. Everything happened through the personal experience. I do admit that I was very homophobic as Christian, as a priest, and my understanding of accepting queer people was that, okay, if they confess or if they decide to change their lifestyle, but at some point a young man came to me, somebody whom I knew from his childhood, who was part of this congregation, who was a friend of mine, and then he came out to me as a transgender woman, And then I started questioning a lot of things. And I said, God, how can you be unforgiving or judgmental towards him when I, who has so limited ability of love or forgiveness, I accept him and love him, and he's a part of my family unconditionally. And then I said, do I think that I have more ability to love somebody than God? And if I admit my limitations, then God must love him much more than I do. So the personal acquaintances matter. And I would tell this story again and again every time I'm asked how I started to think about the queer people. It's because of my friend, whom I loved and whom I knew. And homosexuality was not just some idea, or only Freddie Mercury or some Elton John was not for me, the queer people, but somebody who was very much present in my life. So when you meet people who are different than you are, when you learn about them, then you can broaden your understanding, your faith, and your understanding of your God, and your understanding of humanity. You just need to be listening. Theological understanding of evil is absence of good. So we decide to concentrate on good, not to leave the space for evil. There is this short story, it's a British author, unfortunately I forgot the name now, but there's a short story about the gardener who has a beautiful garden, but all his efforts are to fight the garbages in the garden or the weeds in the garden. And the garden is beautiful, but he does not rejoice or enjoy his garden because all he sees are all the wrong things in the garden. So sometimes we try to do good things, but all our concentration is about evil. So fight the evil, fight the sin, so then condemn the sin. No, it's not. And then you miss the flowers, miss the beauty, miss the joy, miss love. That's why so many religious people are the angry people, because they decided to fight evil. There is evil, but the evil is absence of love, absence of God, absence of good. So just try to find more good, more God, more beauty, and that's how you fight the evil. Most influential person, most influential institution, according to the researches that are being done for every year or regularly, is an Orthodox Church. And the most popular and influential figure, according to the researches, is the head of the Orthodox Church, Patriarch Ilya II. He is very influential. And I believe that his one statement can change a lot of things in the society, while others have to work hard for decades to change something. I'm not only the clergy, but also the human rights activist, and for more than 10 years I worked in the NGO sector and conducting researches and trainings in women's rights. And when May 17 happened, we thought that all our hard work of so many years are gone. Or in 2014, it was a terrible year of femicide, similar to this year. This was the year where 40-something women were killed by husbands, ex-husbands, partners, ex-partners, and the range of women were so different. One of them was the university lecturer, and she was killed in the university corridor or room. And one of the girls was a young Azeri girl who was killed in some village. So the range was very different, very broad. And at the end of the year, everybody is waiting for the Christmas statement of the patriarch. And he would speak about the problematic issues of the year. And we thought maybe now, because of so many women were killed, at least now he will say something about violence against women. What if he says that, let's don't beat them up or don't kill women? And the main message of that Christmas letter was, women, wash your husband's feet when they come home from work. That was the response of the most influential man of the country. He is very influential, and I believe he could bring a lot of positive changes if he had the will. So you remember, have I told you how my colleague introduced me to our guest? Oh, this is our female bishop. Yes. Yes. It depends which country. I mean, abroad is not uniformal. Yeah, it depends which country. There are countries when I go and I said I'm bishop of the Evangelical-Baptist Church, and because of my experience, I expect them all to be surprised. Oh, you're bishop. Oh, okay, so I'm somebody from it. Okay, so it's not a strange thing here. So it depends on country, it depends on community, it depends on people. So sometimes I remember I was invited in Pittsburgh in one of the girls' school to speak with girls. And these were the teenagers. And when I introduced myself and said that I'm a bishop in the Baptist Church, I saw zero reaction from them. It was nothing strange for them. But when I said that, okay, I met Michelle Obama, then their eyes opened. So it depends. So it varies from place to place. Thank you very much for formulating your question the way you did, because sometimes when we speak about the strong women in Georgian culture, in Georgian tradition, we speak very superficially. We speak about King Tamar or Saint Nino or Mother of Georgia, or whatever. And we leave behind the strong women whose names are not known, or strong women who are in our families, our mothers, our grandmothers, our aunts, and our sisters or our daughters. Do you remember Sanata? A woman who is lighting candles and saying the prayer in a church, saying the prayer which priest is supposed to say. And when the stranger comes and says, the women are, who allowed you to do this priestly duties in this church, she says that all our men are gone in the war, so nobody is here to light the candle. One of my friends, he's a very good friend of mine. He's an Orthodox priest, Orthodox bishop, and he's been a friend of my family. And at some point he said that, for me, you are Sanatha. In the beginning, I liked the concept, but then I said, no, I'm not Sanatha. I'm not in the church because there are no other men here to light the candles or say the prayers. Sometimes we think that we have strong women when men are gone. No, we had strong women with strong men. I am here, and if there is any strength in myself, it's thanks to men and women in my family, in my church. It's thanks to my mother, thanks to my uncle, who is my spiritual guide and somebody who taught me everything what somebody can teach you as a human being. Thanks to my husband, thanks to my children. So strong women are in the strong society. And that's why we need to make our men, our boys, our girls stronger, to have strong men and women.